What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Most Feared Part 3 Predictions Investment Guide. A little history lesson. Before we get into the video, though, I want to talk about investing really in general in terms of coin making methods. Investing should be really your last. You kind of have your leftover coins, right? You have your coin making method coins, let's say, your instant coins. You have your team building coins that you might spend for your team. It's really, if you have extra coins lying around, that's where you should put into investing. And it should not be the primary focus. If you only have 300k in your account, do not throw 300k at investments, right? You should spend coins, right? 100k in upgrades, 100k in coin making, and if you have 100k extra lying around, you can throw that at some investments. But this really is just gonna be information. I'm gonna present you with some facts, and you guys can take what you want with it. But we're gonna actually look at a couple cards and what happens when they're successful. For Rob Gronkowski, for example, you were able to buy him at about 8,000 coins, and he spiked up all the way up at 20. Not a super high peak, and that's just because the card wasn't good. And then Brandon Graham is a perfect example of a card just not being wanted or desirable in this set. He was 6,000 coins, he spiked up really to 8,000, right? Only a 2,000 increase, and that's just because Brandon Graham is not that good of a card. Marshawn Lattimore, though, is the polar opposite. You were able to pick him up at about 6,000 coins prior to Most Feared Part 2, and he almost tripled, almost quadrupled in price up to about 24k. I was able to sell off in the low 20s, but what we're really chasing in terms of investments is that high card, the best card at the respective position, and that being Derrick Henry. You were able to pick up Derrick Henry at about 85 to 90k the week leading up to Most Feared, and he ballooned all the way up to 300k. I sold mine off at 235, so a really big increase, basically a triple in your investment into Derrick Henry. Jesse Bates, another one, a little cheaper option. He was only like 15, 17k, and when he came out, being the best free safety at the time, because we did not have Ronnie Lott, he spiked up all the way around to 75. I think I saw him at 90k in terms of the first day of the Most Feared promo. So that's really what we're chasing. But in terms of what we're not chasing, right, we don't want to be buying cards and then when they don't get a card, sell off in the dip, sell off basically in the panic. And that is a per example of Aaron Donald. If you were picking up before, well, basically over Most Feared Part 1 weekend, you could pick him up at about 100,000 coins. He kind of rose up to 150 midweek just off a hype and anticipation alone, and then when he didn't get a card Thursday night, dropped all the way back down to 90,000. Now, I told you guys about investments. They're pretty much going into last week. They were 2-week investments. So if Aaron Donald does not get a card and you bought him for 100k, you don't want to sell at 90. And if you've paid off, your patient has paid off, he's already back up to about 125, 130. So it's really not about necessarily selling at the peak, but we really don't want to be losing coins when we're investing. Aaron Donald's a perfect example of being patient with your cards. If they do not hit, we're actually going to take a look at the Brandon Marshall. I won't buy it pretty fast, but I wanted you to pay attention to the back of the Brandon Marshall card art as well as the Most Feared Scary Good in the middle. You kind of see the background image of the Brandon Marshall in Madden 16, and the card in this year is the same background image, kind of same card art. And we actually go look at the Most Feared Madden 16 just promo name kind of topic, and it was Scary Good, which was on the middle of the Brandon Marshall card. Moving on to JJ Watt, I originally thought Madden 15 was the year that he got a card, but I want you to pay attention to the Madden 17 card. You kind of might notice this, but look at the back of this JJ Watt card, a Most Feared Limited, white background with some trees. And if we take a look at the Madden 22 JJ Watt, I know it's Cardinals, not Texans, but pretty much the exact same background, white background, red trees. It's pretty much, and you'll see there's a pattern with this, that all these cards are to a certain year, and you'll actually see there's not dupes for any year. Moving on to Anthony Barr, the Most Feared logo next to the Anthony Barr name is a little slanted. It's a different Most Feared logo, as well as kind of a left to right kind of blur on the image to insinuate basically Most Feared Scary Fast. And we look at the Anthony Barr now, it's the same thing, right to left kind of image distortion, as well as the Most Feared logo is the exact same from Madden 18. So we've knocked off Madden 17, Madden 18. We're going to jump ahead to Madden 21 being Travis Kelce. Now, I didn't really know what Travis Kelce was about, but if you look at the right border of this Travis Kelce card, there are trees, kind of branches in the Madden 21 card, and look at the Madden 22 card in the background, you will see some trees. So you kind of see, now I don't know what the Most Feared 9 logo means behind the card, but Travis Kelce seems to be from the Madden 21 program. So we got Madden 16, Madden 17, Madden 21, and then finally, if we take a look, I believe, is there another card? No, I already went through the 4 cards. I'm sorry about that. But Most Feared history, we have a Madden 21 card, 18, 17, and 16. Now, I don't think we're going to get a card for every year, right? Madden 13, we're not going to get Marshawn Lynch. He was on the thumbnail. little ode to the history. But I do think we get a Madden 20 and a Madden 19 limited time card. 2 more cards hopefully this upcoming weekend. So we're going to take some looks at the eligible cards from Madden 20, and there's not a lot. Le'Veon Bell's a gold card, but he could get a limited time card. Now Peyton Manning, Dante Hall are kind of new legends. We can't really invest in them, so it doesn't really matter. Cleus Campbell already has a card. He could technically get a limited, but highly unlikely getting a second card this early in the year. Earl Thomas not in the game. Tyler Lockett and Cam Newton already have substantial upgrades. Travis Frederick not in the game, and Denzel Ward really being the first card that kind of stands out for me in the Madden 20 program. He does not have a card in this year's game. As well as the cornerbacks are kind of lacking in the most feared promo. We only have Marshawn Lattimore and Xavier Rhodes. So Denzel Ward really is going to be one of actually only 2 options in the Madden 20 program. Rick and Ndamukong Suh is a card. Michael Thomas, Anthony Barr, we know have cards. Keanu Neal has an 84. Za'Darius Smith is the other card that does not have an upgrade in this year's game. Of course, he has an 82 elite in this year. But Za'Darius Smith and really Denzel Ward are the only 2 options. The only problem is they're only on defense. We have no offensive options. I mean, you could say Tariq Cohen, but he's a gold card. AJ Green already has that flashback. Going back to Madden 19 now, I'm going to say Calvin Johnson just because we need, as you know, if the limited, there's always 1 offense, 1 defense. So we need to find an offensive player really in the Madden 19 or 20 program. Let me guys know in the comments if I'm missing him. But Calvin Johnson, Derwin James is eligible for the limited time card. Anthony Barr already has a card. Zach Cunningham, I don't know where he is at this point in his career. Cleus Campbell, another one, but he already has an upgrade. Carl Long, a gold guard, so we can't invest in him. Jimmy Graham, of course, and there's also 2 parts of the Madden 19 promo that I'll go into, but Jimmy Graham, Kelvin Benjamin, Derrick Henry, Graham and Henry already have upgrades. We're going into the Guardians program of Madden 19. There are a couple more cards. Larry Fitzgerald could be that offensive limited. He does have a gold card free agent in this game, but Aaron Donald, Khalil Mack kind of stand out to me. Madden 19 players that could get that limited time card, but I'm struggling because we know there's going to be 1 offense, 1 defense, unless Madden really just throws a curveball. I don't know where the offensive player is going to come from. Harrison Smith is eligible for an upgrade, but all the other cards, Russell Wilson, Michael Thomas, I mean, Landon Collins has an 84 team builder, and we have seen team builders as the only cards to get double upgrades, that being Justin Herbert and Chase Claypool and Anthony Barr as well. So team builders aren't really a they can get a second card if they have a team builder. But looking at really the options for Madden 20, Madden 19, I don't really see an offensive player, and that's my issue. We could get Le'Veon Bell in Madden 20, and then we could get probably an Aaron Donald, Khalil Mack, or Derwin James for Madden 19. But let me know. We need to do some more research in this community to try to find out who that offensive player is going to be throughout. Now, we could go back to Madden 15 technically, but there are not a lot of cards in Madden 15 that got high-end most feared cards that are still core elites in this year's game. That's 7 years that have passed. But looking at Denzel Ward, in case you want to pick one up, really with any of these cards, you want to pick them up almost at training value. So an 83 would be about 7.5K. So pretty much picking up Denzel Ward for under 8, under 8.5. You saw I picked up probably about 6 or 7. There's really no risk involved. If he does not get a card, he's not going to go down because of training value. So you can just always sell him back and basically not lose anything. You can throw a dart at Za'Darius Smith. He's almost this card at 5K. Khalil Mack and Aaron Donald, unfortunately, have already kind of spiked up. I hope you watched my video on Thursday and Friday. Aaron Donald went down to 90K. Khalil Mack was under 40. If you pick those up, I have about 15 each. Now, I'm not going to keep them all. I don't think they're not really all these cards in terms of investments. I'm not telling you that they are locks. It's just kind of information you can do with what you want. We really don't know what Madden can actually do. I'm just presenting you the information. You guys can do with what you want with it. Derwin James and Harrison Smith, though, we only have one strong safety currently in the most feared program. Harrison Smith and Derwin James both really being dirt cheap. You can pick Harrison Smith for 13K, Derwin James for 8K. Pretty much no risk investments. But looking at the Madden 21 players, in case they kind of just throw away the 1 per year kind of limited, DeAndre Hopkins, Khalil Mack could get cards. Adam Thielen already, DJ Reader possibly, and then really Quentin Nelson, Jair Alexander. So that's going to wrap up the limited portion of this video. Couple options for each year, really, that we can see. I don't think we'll get a Madden 13. Who knows? They could drop 6 limiteds on us to kind of complete that 10 years of most feared. But that's going to be the limited time options. We're not going to move on into the set cards. Moving on into the set card portion of this video, I'm going to show on the screen now. Hopefully the names are not too small, but the teams and their respective cards they have gone so far most feared, with 120 new items according to Cradle coming out over the course of most feared promo. We've already gotten part 1 and part 2. Part 3 seems to be, and the numbers add up to the exact same format, right? 890s. 4 champions, 2 limiteds, and then the cards below that. Each team, though, is probably not going to get more than 4 cards. Only the Colts, maybe with Andrew Luck, getting 5. Looking now at the teams for the 90+, you see some teams currently do not have a 90+ card. You might see Andrew Luck and Josh Jacobs. Now, Andrew Luck, if you did not know, in a solo challenge over the Most Feared Weekend Part 1, it was kind of a blurred out image, but if you zoomed in, kind of mess with the image in Photoshop, you were able to see, and I'll show it on the screen, an Andrew Luck shown in the solo in the bottom right hand corner, and pretty blurred out but large image. So we're going to just assume that Andrew Luck is going to be the champion or 93 overall champion for the offensive side of the football, or one of 2. And then Josh Jacobs actually posted to his Instagram. Now, personally, and this picture on Reddit, the only problem with this Josh Jacobs card is the Most Feared card art in the background is not what we've gotten this year. It seems to be a fan-made kind of art for Josh Jacobs that he happened to just post for his Instagram. Josh Jacobs has spiked up in price, but I don't actually think he's going to get a card. And look at the Brandon Cooks, for example. It's just 2 completely different card arts. So unless Josh Jacobs gets maybe a 95 limited or something like that, I don't think that card is actually real. So if you have any Josh Jacobs, maybe to look to sell on the hype. Looking at the team squad for all the Most Feared cards, Carson Wentz taking the place of Andrew Luck. You will see certain positions do not have cards or limited depth. Now, wide receiver not being one of them. We have already 5 wide receivers, 2 left guards, 2 quarterbacks potentially with Andrew Luck, but no center, no right tackle, no left tackle. And then on the defensive side of the ball, we only have 1 strong safety. We have 3 left ends and only 2 corners, which is very shocking to me. We pretty much have to get a cornerback, and only 1 right end. Maybe 2 middle linebackers, 1 left outside linebacker, but you kind of see the positions that don't have a lot of depth so far in the Most Feared program. So we're actually going to go through into the teams that so far do not have a 90+ and kind of look to see who can get that 90+ upgrade. Team by team, looking at the Bills, we already know Diggs, White, Allen, Hyde all have upgrades. There's only 2 cards on the Bills in the core elite portion that do not have upgrades. First one being Jordan Poyer, a strong safety. Now, we already know we only have 1 strong safety in the program. Jordan Poyer, does he destined to get an upgrade? Because it's really just him or Cole Beasley. Unless they just, now we did get 1 gold last week. They got a 90, that being Eric Rowe. I don't know if we get any more golds that get 90 overall upgrades, but in terms of core leads, right, and just investing, Cole Beasley and Jordan Poyer are the only 2 cards, and I don't really think Cole Beasley is actually going to go up in price, just because if you were to get a 90 overall card, his 81 speed elite probably only have 87 or 88 speed, so it really won't be a desirable card. Moving on to the Chicago Bears. The most obvious one, and we've talked about him maybe getting a limited time card, but he also could get a champion card, and that's Khalil Mack, 87 overall. Hopefully you guys picked a couple of them up over the weekend. His price, as we've talked about, has already kind of go up, but he does not have an upgrade. He kind of checks all those boxes. He can get a limited, he's due for an upgrade, and the Bears don't have a 90+ overall card, as well as there only being 1 left outside linebacker and it being unlimited. Allen Robinson, though, is eligible for an upgrade, and there'll be a couple cards on the Bears. Akeem Hicks, another one. Akeem Hicks, I'm more like to maybe get a heavyweight possibly this week, so he isn't a bad dual investment if you can pick him up for under 7,000 coins. But Allen Robinson, Akeem Hicks, and then David Montgomery are the other cards for the Bears. David Montgomery being an 80 overall. We are probably going to see at least 1 more 90+ running back, only having Derrick Henry so far. So maybe look at those low elite running backs that do not have upgrades to potentially get that 90 overall card. Moving on into the Denver Broncos. Now, the Denver Broncos have a lot of cards that have not gotten upgrades, starting with Justin Simmons. The only problem with Justin Simmons that I see is that Jesse Bates already got a 92 free safety, and he's in that same kind of tier. Jesse Bates was an 85 core elite. Justin Simmons is an 86. Bradley Chubb, I thought was probably maybe going to get a card over the last 2 weeks, but we already have Lawrence Taylor and Ed Reed at right outside linebacker, but he is a good option. If you could pick up an 85 for anywhere under 16K, you pretty much can't go wrong. You won't lose any coins. Bryce Callahan is a low-key investment. We only have 2 corners, and if you notice on his card, 86 speed on an 81 overall card is very high, so if you were to get a 90+ card, potentially the fastest corner in the game. So I think he's a good shout. Throw a dart at him, pick him up for under 7,000 coins. If he does not get a card, he's really not going to go down much more. So he's maybe a good little option, cheap option. Garrett Bowles, of course, we don't have a left tackle, maybe potentially him. Now the other cards, Fuller already has a card, but Melvin Gordon is kind of that running back tier of David Montgomery that can maybe get that 90 overall most feared card, considering right? Like I said, we only have 192 overall halfback in the promo. Moving on to the Packers now. These guys have a lot of cards, and I think that is one of these cards is going to get a 90. It's just really going to be a matter of who, possibly maybe two. But starting with Davante Adams, the only problem with Davante Adams and the receivers that I'm not going to mention in this video, really like Tyreek Hill and DeAndre Hopkins, are that we already have 5 wide receivers in the program, being Randy Moss, Calvin Ridley, Brandon Marshall. There's so many high-end wide receivers from this promo. It's hard for me to see that we get another maybe 1 or 2 wide receivers this week. We'll probably get guaranteed 1, but it's probably not going to be more than 1. Now, Jair Alexander had a Madden 21 card, so he's not really that much eligible for a limited, but we don't have any corners, and really in terms of high-end correlate corners, every single card, like Tre'Davious White, Ramsey, Humphrey, Gilmore, they've all gotten cards except for Jair Alexander. Plus, Jair Alexander is hurt, so I don't know if that maybe adds into it. David Bakhtiari, the left tackle card, a little too high overall, just because I don't think we're going to get another champion lineman being a 93 Bakhtiari, so he's more of a basically probably a 10% chance. Kenny Clark, though, we only have 1 D tackle, he being an 84 overall. Who knows? I actually think personally for this promo, I think we might see 91 overall 91 overall mini heroes basically for this part 3. I don't think they're going to stick at 90. We've already gotten an upgrade from 93 or 92 to 93 in the champions. I think we might see those mini heroes, mini champions go up from 90 to 91 this week. Zadarius Smith, we've already talked about in terms of a limited time card, so he checks all 3 of those boxes. Limited, backer zone of a 90, and he does not have an upgrade. If they check all 3 of those boxes, it just gives you more of a possibility that they can get an upgrade over this next week. And of course, Preston Smith, another card. There are a lot of low-end cards. Elton Jenkins I went over, but he already had a card. But now we're going to move on. If I could find the right team, I believe the Jacksonville Jaguars. We've already gotten 4 Jacksonville Jaguar cards, but the only cards that I've not gotten upgrades in terms of core elites left is Brandon Lindor and James Robinson. If you actually look, all the other cards have gotten upgrades, Josh Allen, Shaquille Griffin, those type of cards. But I don't really see if the Jaguars get 5 cards in this promo and the Packers are over here, or the Seahawks have 1 right now, it's going to be hard for me to find that they make it 90 overall. Jacksonville Jaguars, but the Rams is probably, now it's not written in the stars, but it's pretty damn close. Aaron Donald, he has been not only, he was in Madden 21's most feared, he was in Madden 19's most feared, so he's eligible. He checks all 3 of those boxes, as well as there are not a lot of core elite Rams players that have gone up or that are eligible for an upgrade. We're not going to count kicker and punter. Jalen Ramsey, we know, got that 93 overall Gridiron Guardian. Andrew Whitworth is the other card that could get a possible upgrade, but him being an 81 overall, he's a little on the older side. I wouldn't really call him a most feared card. Maybe a heavyweight at 91 overall. I don't know. But the other cards, right, Robert Woods has a limited. Now, Cooper Kupp is interesting because do we classify that Team of the Week 84 as an upgrade? Because he was an 80 overall and he went up to an 84. I don't know exactly. Maybe it seems like when the Team of the Week cards seem to be set in place, like there's only a small pool that can get, like, because we haven't seen Derrick Henry didn't card because he was basically programmed into the most feared promo. Tyreek Hill, when he dropped that 48-point fantasy week, I believe week 3 it was, he didn't get a Team of the Week, so he's gonna we pretty much know that Tyreek Hill is at least gonna get a card probably in the next month because he's locked in for a promo card. But the Rams, it's looking like Aaron Donald. We only have 1 right end, but it's not a guarantee. None of these are guarantees. I'm just trying to give you guys the information presented to me that I found, and hopefully as a community we can kind of simplify the options. The picture really gets clearer every week because more and more teams get 90 plus, more and more positions kind of get filled. Moving on though to the Niners, Trent Williams. I mean, if there was a card that's I would consider most feared, it'd probably be Trent Williams for a line. I mean, that dude, he's probably 30 plus now in the league, 30 plus years old. He is still a beast. Kyle Juszczyk, we don't have a fullback. Kyle Juszczyk though, a little bit more on the expensive side at about 34, 35k for an 85. But if he were to get a card, he'd probably shoot up to 70, 80k. He'd be probably a fan favorite in terms of picking his end cat out of the set to kind of just fill that fullback role that you don't want to spend coins on. Jason Verrett, like Bryce Callahan, a low-key investment because his card has really good speed at a low overall to where if he got a 90 plus, he could potentially be the fastest cornerback in the game, him having Chargers and Niners themed teams. Now, the Niners have a lot of low cards. Eric Armstead, Jimmy Ward are eligible for upgrades and being 80, 81s, don't have a card yet, so they can maybe get that. And now in terms of Niners, we already have 2 87s. Raheem Mostert and Jaquiski Tart have 87, so they're not going to fill any 87s, but we will probably see a 90 overall from one of these. I think it was 3 or 4 eligible cards. Finally, the last team, or no, I think the second to last team maybe, is going to be the Seattle Seahawks. They only have 1 card, I think, in the most feared program right now, and there are a lot of cards that are eligible for upgrades. The first being Bobby Wagner, a middle linebacker, a little low on the speed, so really his card, if he were to get an upgrade, would not be that good. But if he's an 86 overall, I think if you pick up under 25k, it's pretty much no risk. He settles at around 30, low 30, so you could always sell him back if he does not get a card. DK Metcalf is another one of those cards where if he were to get a card, now he's a perfect example of not selling into the hype, because he did not get a card this last week. He was 20k all last week, and when all the hype, the panic of Friday when he did not get a card, he has dropped all the way down to about 12, 13k. I picked up a few just because he's probably going to go back up to that 20k midweek when the anticipation builds. And if DK Metcalf were to get a card, his core elite would probably be in the 70 to 80ks, almost like times 8 or times 7 your investment. Chris Carson, though, is eligible for an upgrade. He could probably, I think he really fits that 90 overall halfback kind of position, because we're not going to get one running back throughout the entire program, so he kind of fits that backup running back to Derrick Henry in terms of the most feared program. Dwayne Brown, of course, could get an upgrade. Quandre did get an upgrade, but we already have 2 free safeties. Dwayne Brown could get that left tackle 90 overall card, filling that Seahawks 90 plus kind of position. But that's going to be, I believe that is all the teams that so far do not have a 90 plus, although we do have, and right, there are some other, I think I've gone through all of them, but there are some other positions really that I kind of like, or players that it's really just a high ceiling. You don't want to be left out on these cards, and that being maybe one like Tyreek Hill. If you can pick up Tyreek Hill over the weekend, he went from 70 to 50k. Hopefully you picked up one at around 50k, a really low price. He's kind of back up to 65, and maybe Tuesday, if he does not get a card, basically team of the week for whatever reason, if he basically drops back down to 55k, I would potentially maybe just pick up one just in case, because if he does get a card, I mean, Tyreek Hill's probably going to be 300,000 coins whenever he gets an upgrade, or his core elite card is going to be 300,000 coins. But of course, you got like DeAndre Hopkins, who's pretty much a discard for an 87 in terms of training. 35k and under you could pick up. There's no risk. If he does not get a card, you can always just quick sell him. That is what training is going for. 35k for an 87. Another one of these cards could be like a Justin Jefferson, like a DK Metcalf, where if Justin Jefferson were to get a card, now we only have we have Randy Moss and Barr, so we have 2 basically legends for the Vikings. We don't have a 90 plus. Justin Jefferson were to get a card, he'd probably be in that 40 to 50k range, just being a highly popular player. And of course, you always have Scary Terry. He's always eligible to get a most feared card. His name, he got one last year, potentially maybe a limited. So if you pick up Terry McLaurin, 82 overall for under 7k, it's pretty much no risk involved. And then for the defensive side of the ball, Chase Young. Now we already know we have Jonathan Allen for the Washington football team getting an upgrade, but like Tyreek Hill, like DK Metcalf, Chase Young is pretty much a no risk, where you can pick him up for under 8,000 coins, and if he were to get a card, he'd probably be in that 50k plus range. So really, that's gonna wrap up the set portion of the video. We went over the limiteds, these sets, and there's a price for pretty much any card that you want to invest in. Always try to pick up at the lowest point, or you always want to buy the dip. Now I know that was last weekend, but there is going to be a window. Tuesday when team of the week drops is probably the only next best time if you want to get some last minute most feared investments. But in terms of any card you're buying price for, try to target that training value. So 87s under 35k. Aaron Donald, not really. See, Aaron Donald's already back up to 135. I think I have 20 that I've all bought for under 95k, so that's looking like a really good mid-week investment. You're going to actually see me list an Aaron Donald. But in terms of any card, an 83 overall for under 8k, you can't go wrong. That's pretty much training this card. An 87 for under 35k is a no-risk investment. 86s, I like to target around 25 and under. 85s being that 17, or maybe more like 16k or under range. Just pick up these cards. Don't buy when they're inflated. Like when DK Metcalf last week was 20k. You don't want to pick that up just because its price has already rose 7 to 8k over the hype, over the anticipation. You want to always be ahead of the curve, maybe a little couple days in advance. Josh Jacobs, I don't think that's a real card, so I'm going to be selling off my Josh Jacobs scares. I forgot to mention that, by the way, in my market video on Thursday. Picked them up for a bunch of him for under 9k, and I'm just basically selling into the hype of him potentially getting a card. But that's going to wrap up this video, Most Feared Part 3. Take what you want with all this information. We do really, as a community, need to find out those limiteds, what basically could be that offensive limited player for either Madden 20 or Madden 19, because it seems to be the kind of continuing pattern limiteds where each year kind of gets a legend or a limited time card filled out. I don't know if they can draw all the way back to Madden 15, Madden 25, Madden 13, but that's going to be all for this video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned a lot from this video. Comment if you have any questions. Of course, like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new, and until next time, peace.